not only your preparation, but what I want to underscore for our audience, which again are these meeting professionals that are in partnership with me curating this content, which is really the connective tissue, as you stated, where you have attendees that are maybe having to attend something to get some continuing education credit, but they want to be inspired and ideally get close to somebody that they would never have access to, and even take it further, maybe have some takeaways that they can apply to their personal and or professional life. But you thread the needle on both sides of the coin, if that's even a possible phrasing, where you have the moderating and the ability to do the keynote. And in this particular event that we had Dame Julie Andrews, or Dame Jules, as she's known in her inner circle, which apparently you're stepping into or have stepped into, is that you did so much of your homework and you were so comfortable as the moderator, but as a keynoter, you knew the audience, which was a large financial services organization. So you had all those cylinders firing. And dare I say, not only a Sondheim rabbit hole, but you were more of a Broadway geek nerd than maybe she was, because you were bringing up stuff from her past. But what I want to underscore here, Jill, and I'm sure you've seen this, an organization will bring in a big name and they are insistent that their CEO, their COO, whomever, the president of sales, the marketing person is going to do the moderating. And it's not that I want to do another booking and get another moderator in. It's such a big investment, and you have to ensure that you're going to extract, squeeze, get the most juice out of what you've brought in. And I just can't say enough about your ability to do that. And that's from years of being on CBS and having your shows and being able to understand you're inhabiting what the audience needs.
I think it's a great point, because I have been in the audience where you have some people in an organization where, they're really great at it. And, a couple of people come to mind when I think about that. So, oftentimes I will be asked, can you do this thing for our LGBTQ group? Because I happen to be gay. And they're like, well, we usually have the head of the Pride Network who does this. And, I think it's just that I approach it from a very different angle, because the job of the interviewer is really to bring out the best in the interviewee. And I think that the challenge is, if you're the CEO, the marketing person, the CFO, what you'll fall back on is making sure that that person knows that you're really smart. And no one cares if you're really smart. They kind of assume it, And what was interesting, I did an engagement for a Fortune 500 company. And they said, well, the CFO wants to interview you about the economy. And I said, okay. And they wanted to do a pre-interview. I said, I don't do a pre-interview. Don't do a pre-interview. I said, I know every company wants to do that. It's a waste of time. You can just say, here are here's a few big bullet points. But I said, it's not going to, you want a dynamic interview. You do not give your interviewee the questions in advance. You say, here are the themes that we're going to touch on. We're in the lane. It's the stuff you do all the time. And if the person needs to know the questions in advance, then that is probably not going to be a great interview. So what is clear to me is that the role of the interviewer is, again, it is not about the interviewer. It is about the person you're interviewing. It is, how do I get the best out of that person for our audience? When we have correspondents who are doing these lengthy interviews on 60 Minutes, on CBS Sunday Morning, these are like the best of the best. And what I have learned from these folks is that they have an arc of a story that they're trying to sort of weave together, right? And in an interview, you have ideas about questions you want to ask, but you have to be able to go off script. And if you're not, then you're going to be looking down at this card saying, oh, no, it's question 4 time. No, I got to get to question 5. That's not a fun interview. So over prepare, be ready, have a few questions or have an idea in your mind where you want to go. If you don't trust yourself, or if you as an organization don't trust the person to be able to make that happen, splurge a few more bucks and make it something that is lasting and important, and get more out of the person who's the interviewer, maybe with a few other sides that they'll bring to the table. Oh yeah, of course I'll do the luncheon before. Oh yeah, you need me to come in and sign books? Of course I'll do that. Oh yeah, you want me to come to the cocktail party the night before? Of course I'll do that. Because most people want to do that. And I think, again, one of the issues is that, you better be a great speaker to give a keynote, right? It was funny because I remember when AICPA, which is the organization, sort of like the body behind CPAs in the United States, right? And when the AICPA came to me and they said, well, we're going to have this person do a keynote, or you could do a chat with them. I said, the chat's going to be better, I promise. And, the chats are always more interesting because if you have a good interviewer, they're going to go off the script. If you're listening to podcasts and you think about the podcasts that are really good, that are live interview podcasts, they're the ones that are not scripted. So, I love Mark Maron. I don't love every single guest, but I love his ability to be able to extract from people something that you did not know about them. And that to me is that's the magic of the live moment.
Yeah. And, we're going to move on from Dame Jules in a moment, but, you said spend a little bit extra money. And again, it's not about that. It's about having that professional be able to make your guest, the person that's been invited, shine, but to also connect it to the attendees and the audience. And you made a point about how when we got on, her decades, over 50 decades, her manager, agent, representative was very protective. I call it, they get into goalkeeper mode, which is completely understandable. We know the game, you and I both. More often than not, then you meet her in person, and then during the actual interview, she's bringing up all of the off-limits, prohibited topics. I was recently with a very well-known comedian. They've had their own HBO specials, their own TV shows. They've been in first-run movies. And we had organized a 7 a.m. VIP breakfast. And I get a call. I'm waiting to receive them at this hotel in Las Vegas. The night before, they get in. And I had gotten a call while I was literally waiting in the service parking lot to bring them up the service elevator to their suite. And I get a call from his team saying, yeah, breakfast isn't going to happen. And I'm like, wait a minute, it was in the offer. So I had never met this person in person before, booked them before, but I was on site for this event. So I'm like, I got about 40, 50 floors to figure this out in the service elevator. So I just said, there was a question about tomorrow morning's breakfast. And they're like, what time is breakfast? I said, well, it's at 7 a.m. And he said to me, well, you probably need to come and get me around 6:45 so we can get there on time. And that was it. I didn't even bring up, well, your office set or anything like that. So often it's the people around them and not them themselves. So, you have to take that with a grain of salt. And I just want to underscore that because it's not tooting our own horn, but this is, you have decades of experience as a professional dealing with these rarefied air, high dignitary type speakers. And I do that as well. So that we're in good hands. I know when I bring you into my clients, we're in great hands. So I just wanted to underscore that a little bit.